The World Justice Challenge is a global prize competition to recognize good practices and high impact projects that protect and advance the rule of law. It's organized by the World Justice Project. We are an independent, multidisciplinary, nonprofit organization working to create knowledge, build awareness, and stimulate action to advance the rule of law worldwide. We're based in the United States and we have offices in Mexico and Singapore. And this is the third World Justice Challenge that we have organized. Next slide, please. This year, the challenge is dedicated to projects that address the inequities and governance weaknesses which have been exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. In particular, we are looking to award projects that address systemic challenges and barriers related to COVID-19 recovery. The objective of the challenge is to identify these impactful projects and policies, raise their visibility, and to help build a network of rule of law organizations and champions. And of course, the challenge will ultimately give awards to 5 winning projects, each of which will receive a $20,000 USD cash prize. So before we go further into the details of the challenge, it's important to provide some background about the World Justice Forum, which my colleague Killian is now going to take a few moments to explain.
Thank you, Lauren. So yeah, the World Justice Challenge this year will take place in the context of the World Justice Forum 2022, Building More Just Communities. The forum will take place from May 30th to June 2nd, 2022, and will convene hundreds of rule of law actors from around the world in The Hague, in the Netherlands, and online. The focus of the forum will be on agenda setting, learning, and action to ensure the path of recovery from COVID-19 is just, and that progress toward achieving the Sustainable Development Goals remains on track. And in order to give you a taste of the forum, we have a short promotional video that we'd like to show you right now.
It's really a great pleasure to be here today and to see such a diverse group, including leaders of the world of politics, business, civil society, and research. All of you are necessary if we want to make access to justice for all by 2030 a reality.
This forum has been critical in advancing those goals because it has brought together an extraordinary array of non-governmental and governmental actors who are working creatively, imaginatively, and increasingly cooperatively to further the rule of law and broaden access to justice.
People connecting the dots between their work and somebody else's work and an approach that they can replicate, take back home.
The highlight of being here was meeting all of the participants from across the world who are facing and working with similar challenges and doing it with a lot of innovative models.
I'm really happy to be here, and it's amazing the inspirational stories I've heard over the last few days from different countries, and it really inspires and gives hope.
Just an amazing opportunity to be together in this and realize that you have partners throughout the world as we're fighting for justice together.
We don't live single-issue lives, so how could we possibly have single-issue movements?
We also put great emphasis on finding, documenting, supporting, and promoting effective solutions. We have work to do. Let's get started.
The World Justice Challenge competition was one of the most engaging and inspiring parts of the forum.
Thank you so much for this honor, because this will help us replicate our training to new people and support our paralegals.
The winner is Justice Defenders for its project on increasing access to justice and providing legal education through online learning platforms and virtual courts in Kenya.
And I actually would like to take this opportunity to thank the World Justice Project for the fantastic 4 days of stimulating and exciting exchange on making justice a reality for all.
what limits us can also liberate us, because we can move on and work with people around us. And I think that is so important if we want to achieve the goals we want to achieve.
If you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others.
Thank you. Such an inspiring video. I hope you can join us. So the forum will consist of 3 days and will be divided into 3 themes. The first theme will have to do with guaranteeing fair and effective access to justice for all. The second theme will have to do with ensuring open and accountable government and combating corruption. And the third will be eliminating systemic discrimination and protecting fundamental rights. These are also the 3 themes of the World Justice Challenge, and we'll talk about them in more detail in a bit. Additionally, the forum will aim at exploring these themes in different ways. So the first day of the forum will offer a diagnosis of the challenges linked to each of these themes and setting priorities to address them. The second day will focus on identifying solutions to address persistent rule of law issues. And finally, the third will aim at taking action by encouraging participants to come together and make commitments, offer recommendations, and work together to build a movement to strengthen the rule of law around the world. In 2021, the World Justice Challenge was held virtually, but this year the challenge finalists will be invited to attend the World Justice Forum and present their projects at the Justice Expo. The Justice Expo is an open space at the conference venue in The Hague for in-person participants to exhibit innovative and original content on justice and the rule of law. Exhibitors will showcase their work and engage with other participants, including government representatives, media, donors, and the private sector. Additionally, the World Justice Challenge finalists will be invited to present their projects during a series of showcases on the second day of the forum. And finally, the forum will close with a ceremony announcing the winners of the World Justice Challenge 2022 on June 2nd. We'll be launching the registration for the forum later this week, so we invite you to sign up for updates from the WJP by clicking the link in the chat, and we hope to see you in The Hague or online. Back to you, Lauren.
Great, thank you, Killian. Next slide, please. Great. So now that we've covered a little bit about the forum and hopefully given you some understanding of the context of the challenge, we're going to go a little bit more into the details of the application process, eligibility requirements, and the timeline. So as we've mentioned, the challenge has 3 themes this year: access to justice, anti-corruption and open government, and equal rights and non-discrimination. Submissions must address at least one of these 3 themes to be considered eligible for the challenge. We encourage organizations from anywhere in the world to apply, and it's a multidisciplinary competition, so we accept applications from nonprofit organizations, private sector, media, law firms, government agencies. Most types of organizations are eligible. Entries must be submitted in English. We're very much hoping for a global representation of applications, but we only have the capacity to review English applications at this time. One very important note about the challenge is that this is a one-time prize for projects or policies which are already in progress and which have already shown results. It is not a grant-making program to fund new initiatives. So unfortunately, applications seeking funding for brand new future initiatives will not be considered. And important to note, applications are due on December 10th, which is a little less than a month from now. You may submit an application through the online portal on our website, or you can also download the application as a Word document and submit it via email. So I'm just going to go a little bit into the review process and timeline, which Killian has touched on a bit. So once applications are received, they are evaluated by 3 criteria. The first is impact, which is whether the initiative has made a real contribution to solving an important justice challenge. The second is sustainability. Does it have potential to continue into the future? And scaling or replicability, which means the initiative demonstrates potential for expansion, in its current context or replication in other contexts. And that could mean expanding to new geographies, to new communities, or to new sectors. WJP will work with a committee of our partners and will select 30 finalists who will be notified in February 2022. Their work will be profiled on our website and in our social media. And as Killian mentioned, they will then be invited to attend the World Justice Forum in The Hague to showcase their projects and to network with the international rule of law community. And then once we're at the forum, the 5 winning initiatives will be selected. There will be one winner under each of the themes. So there will be a prize given for access to justice, a prize for anti-corruption and open government, and a prize for equal rights and non-discrimination. There will also be one special prize, which is the Data for Justice Prize. That will be for the project that demonstrates the most innovative and effective use of data and evidence to advance one or more of the themes of the challenge. The winners will be chosen by a committee of judges, and we will also award a 5th prize, which will be chosen by finalists and winners from the past 2 challenge competitions. That's a little bit of we're calling an alumni prize or a popular vote amongst our previous participants. And then of course, those 5 winning projects will be announced at a live awards ceremony at the World Justice Forum in The Hague. So we've now given you a little bit of information about the timeline and the details, and we've touched on the themes, but we'd like to just go into a little bit more detail about each of those themes. So I'm going to turn it over to Killian to speak about the first theme, access to justice. So next slide, please.
Thank you, Lauren. So the first theme for the World Justice Challenge is access to justice. And we know that around the world, justice needs are going largely unmet. According to WJP's new Global Needs Survey data, more than 100,000 households in 101 countries have experienced at least one legal problem in the last 2 years. These problems affect every aspect of people's lives, from housing and land to family and employment and other issues. Moreover, out of those who reported a legal problem, more than half were unable to meet their justice needs. The result is that 1.4 billion people around the world have unmet civil and administrative justice needs. To respond to this crisis, the World Justice Challenge is encouraging project entries that seek to remedy the barriers to access to justice posed or exacerbated by the pandemic. And while the negative trends are serious, the global community has a unique opportunity to improve justice services and governance structures. We hope that the projects that apply to the World Justice Challenge can help guide these initiatives as examples of good practices and high impact projects and policies to ensure a just recovery. We'd like to remind everybody that applicants in this category should focus on submitting projects that address systemic access to justice challenges. Now turning back to Lauren for the second theme.
Okay, great. The second theme, anti-corruption and open government. So we know that corruption poses a fundamental threat to the rule of law. Corrupt practices weaken judicial integrity, erode trust in public institutions, and undermine justice. These practices typically go hand in hand with unaccountable governance. This poses significant barriers to fulfilling fundamental rights, and it also makes it significantly more difficult to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. And what we've seen in the COVID-19 pandemic is that risks for corruption and unaccountable governance have increased. Governments have mobilized massive amounts of resources for healthcare and social services. And at the same time, they've used emergency powers and suspended oversight mechanisms. And the result is greater threats for fraud and waste. So we invite applicants to submit projects under this theme that help strengthen open and accountable governance and curb corruption. And we are specifically interested in projects that use evidence-based strategies to address the root causes of corruption. Next slide, please. And the third theme equal rights and non-discrimination. So the COVID-19 pandemic has weakened human rights protections and worsened discrimination all over the world. According to the World Justice Project's own Rule of Law Index, which came out earlier this year, we saw that over the past year, 70% of countries declined in the score that measures fundamental rights. This has had a disproportionate impact on minority groups who were already experiencing systemic marginalization before the pandemic. In many places, government response to the pandemic has included unequal services, repressive emergency measures, and other discriminatory policies. These policies directly threaten the lives and dignity of marginalized communities, including racial and ethnic minorities, migrants, and indigenous groups. COVID-19 has also introduced additional challenges for women and girls on issues from education to employment to sexual and reproductive health. We hope applicants under this theme will submit projects that use intersectional approaches to strengthen equal rights and non-discrimination as an essential part of pandemic recovery. So we've covered the three themes, and now I'm going to give it back to Killian to introduce two former World Justice Challenge winners who we are very excited have joined us today. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Lauren. And before I start, I'd just like to mention again that if you want to ask questions about the World Justice Challenge application process or to our speakers, please do so through the chat function at the bottom of your screen. Our first speaker today is Miriam Wachira. Miriam is the Kenya Country Director for Justice Defenders. In that role, she developed the project Increasing Access to Justice and Providing Legal Education through online learning platforms and virtual courts, which received the prize for access to justice at the World Justice Challenge 2021. The judges selected this project as an impressive example of empowering prisoners and prison staff through legal training and education and facilitating access to the courts during the pandemic. Our second speaker today is Grace Ngugi. Grace is the Executive Director of the Dhobi Women Network in Kenya, and Grace spearheaded the development of the project Inua Mamafua, which received the Ruth Bader Ginsburg Legacy Prize at the World Justice Challenge 2021. The judges selected this project as an important example of a multifaceted approach to the fight against inequality and gender-based discrimination through provision of emergency social services and raising awareness of these women's right to decent work. The Ruth Bader Ginsburg Legacy Prize, I should mention, was a special prize that was delivered by the World Justice Project in 2021 in memory of Justice Ginsburg and her fight against workplace discrimination. This prize will not be delivered in 2022, but we will be awarding a special prize for the project with the most innovative use of data for advancing justice. And now I'll turn to the floor to our two speakers to present their projects and to tell us a bit more about their experience with the World Justice Challenge process. Miriam, you're first. Over to you.
Thank you, Kiran. I hope you can hear me. All right. My name is Miriam Wachira. I'm the Kenya Country Director for Justice Defenders. Justice Defenders is a community of people who have come together to defend the defenseless within our community. Our projects are based in prisons. We are currently in 3 countries. We're working in 3 countries, working in Kenya, Uganda, and the Gambia, where we have offices in prisons. We have 3 programs that we work with. The first program is education program, where we offer bachelor's degrees to inmates and to prison officers in law, so that they can use that knowledge to impact those they live with, so that they can give advice and services. The second project is a practice project, where we train inmates and prison officers to be paralegals. So we have many paralegals within prison. In Kenya, we currently have 198 paralegals, active paralegals across 12 prisons. So we train the paralegals, and then the paralegals, we have offices within prisons. We have legal offices within prisons where they are there to give advice and to offer services to their fellow prison population. For us, when COVID hit, the Kenya government did give a ban on prison visits, which meant that we could no longer access prisons. Our staff members could not access prisons, but also there was, because of the ban on movement, courts were closed. That meant that the prisoners were not being taken to court. One of the things that we quickly did is that we moved all our programs online. So the law degrees were able to be done online. And one of the things that we really celebrate about that move is that we could actually now have one lecturer giving a lecture between Kenya and Uganda, where we have the University of London students taking the bachelor's degree. We also quickly connected our prisons with internet and computers, which meant that they could access materials to read, but also most importantly, that they could access courts. So we have virtual courts running currently in Kenya. Sorry? Okay. So we have virtual courts running in Kenya, in different, in all the courts in Kenya. So prisoners no longer need to go to court. They can actually sit as I'm seated and they communicate with court, and their matters are heard on the internet through the virtual courts. We are very happy with the award that we got. And one of the things I would say is that for the application, you really need to show sustainability, the sustainability of your program. For us, that's sorry, I was muted. Is that all right? Can I continue?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, please continue.
All right. So for us, one of the things you have to show in your application is sustainability. So for our program, it's sustainable because we have the prison community, the paralegals giving out the services, which means it's sustainable. Even if we are not there, they can continue to offer that with the knowledge that you have given them. Replicability of your program. Our program is able to be moved to any other prison as it is. We currently have so many requests to move to new prisons to start the same program. Also scalability, that you're able to scale the program further. And then it must have a human impact or a social impact. One of the benefits we have had since winning the World Justice Challenge is that it has given us exposure and publicity through social media, but also people just looking at who are these winners. So we have seen more traffic on our social media handles. We also seen more traffic on our website. It also has given us a lot of credibility. I think we all know that once you are doing an application, if you have an award that you can mention, it gives you a lot of credibility to future donors or partners. It was also a great motivation to our team that our work has been recognized. So it has kept the team quite motivated and ready to move on and to even get to greater heights. And lastly, we have had now so many requests. We have requests from different parts of the world, whether we could go in there and start the program. I think I will stop there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miriam, for sharing that. I think we'll turn now to Grace and Ngugi. Grace, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. If you want to go ahead and share your project and your impressions of the World Justice Challenge.
Thank you so much, Kaelian. And I don't know whether you're going to project the presentation or for us. My name is Grace Ngugi. I'm the Executive Director at Dhobi Women Network, an organization that champions the rights of women domestic workers in Kenya. Yes, we were part of the winners of 2021, and we are so grateful that we were able to celebrate with the other team that won the award. And for those who don't know, Dhobi means women who do casual work, who do permanent jobs at homes, and also we work with migrants. And we have been working with them in terms of trying to help to access justice, which has not been the case during pandemic. Most of them were relieved from their jobs, and they were not able to access justice where most of the institutions were closed, and they were not able to work and go even look for jobs to feed their families. And there were so many challenges they were undergoing, especially on gender-based violence as well at home, because they couldn't be able to feed their families as well. And it's when we came up with a solution to these problems, and we developed a USSD code, which the women were to use to access services from the comfort of their homes without walking. Remember, during COVID, especially in Kenya, there were lockdowns and there were no movements that were allowed, and those who were seen walking and going around or going outside their homes were arrested and taken to forced quarantine. So to mitigate this, we came up with a USSD code that had reporting system where the women could call in case of any challenges they faced during the pandemic. They could access justice. And this helped because even not only were they seeking justice in case of psychosocial support during the pandemic, were able to see how they could help each other from wherever they live in the informal settlements. This award came at the right time because after developing the USSD code, we didn't have facilitation to roll it out and to even to roll it out to other counties. In Kenya, we call them counties, not states. And it came at the right time, and so far we have been able to. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Hello? Can you hear me? Sorry for that. So far, we have been able to we were able to roll it out after we won the award, which we are much grateful to the team. And we have been able to get publicity from, as my colleague said, it gives a lot of credibility, a lot of motivation to the team and to the women as well. It also gave us the time to even celebrate ourselves, even for coming up with a solution to our problems. And so far, I can say that World Justice Project has helped has given us also motivation to do more and to even think bigger, and also help others that are upcoming and they're looking for solutions. We have been able to reach out, especially on social media, and organizing and creating awareness about the code that we developed, because it can be used within any part of the country. And we have been able to even work with the government very well, because we have incorporated all the toll-free lines where the women or the men or the communities can use. So it's catering for each and everyone, be it women, be it girls. And for the World Justice team, we want to thank you for the process was credible. The process was free and fair, I can say. For a long time as an organization, we have been struggling with funding, and this came at the right time, because after we won, we have seen many donors coming on board to be associated with us because of given this award, and I can say you are very helpful, and you helped us even along the way where we didn't know what to do and what to do. You are always there to support us and to give guidance, even to the communities and even the participants themselves, those who are participating in the competition. I can say that we were not known, and I want to tell the team that is here today and want to apply and to be part of the competition in 2022. You don't have to know anyone, but you have to work extra hard. You have to keep going and to always be on the lookout and to respond to questions, to participate in every occasion, every event that comes up that World Justice will share with you. So I want to say a big thank you, and we look forward to a great time with every one of you, and we wish you all the best. I think I'll leave it at that, and if there's any question, I'm ready to answer. And I'm joined also by my colleague Brenda, who is one of our volunteer advocates in the organization. She'll be joining us in Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you very much to both Grace and Miriam for telling us a little bit about your projects. It was wonderful to hear what you've been working on and how the challenge has had an impact on your work. So as my colleagues mentioned, next slide, please. We now have some time to take questions from those of you who have joined us today, questions for Killian and I about the World Justice Challenge, about the World Justice Forum, about the organization, and also for Grace and Miriam, if you have any questions for them about their projects or about their participation in the challenge, we're happy to take questions now. And perhaps while we're waiting for some questions to come through, and oh, please also note you may ask your questions in any of the languages offered in the webinar. So you may type your questions in English, French, Spanish, Arabic, or Russian. So perhaps while we're waiting, if a question for Grace and Miriam, and I know, Grace, you got to this a little bit in your remarks, but if you could just tell us what advice would you offer to applicants who are considering applying for the challenge? What would you tell them to think about in terms of approaching this opportunity in a way that would maximize the impact of their project?
Thank you so much, Kate and Laureen, and I would say that the advice I would give to those who are applying for the part of the competition is to know that it's a process that you're starting, and you must have a goal of what you want to achieve at the end of the day, and what are you looking for, and how it will change the lives of the people that you are intending to support. And it's as the word itself, it's a challenge. So you'll be challenging yourselves, and the advice is don't give up. Keep going until the end of the competition. You never know, you will be many, and along the way, others will be dropped, others will win. And doesn't mean that you're not all winners. We are all winners, and you continue also. If not only if you don't win 2022, there'll be another year 2023. Thank you.
For me, what my advice would be, try to bring out the unique aspects of your project Sometimes we have told our stories so many times that when we do another application, we assume people know. So just be keen to tell your story simply and bring out your unique point, your innovation in it. The three areas that, as you have seen in the application, the sustainability, the replicability, and scalability must be very clear within your application. Thank you.
Great, thank you both so much, Miriam and Grace. So we're receiving a couple of questions in the chat, and I'm going to look to my colleague Sally and also Killian to help us field some of these questions.
Thank you, Lauren. Maybe I can start with the questions in the chat, and I think we have someone that's ready to ask a question live who's raised their hand. But we have a question in the chat about whether or not the project presentation, I'm imagining at the forum, will only be allowed in English. So we will be having a translation at the forum, and the presentation will be able to be in your language. The languages that will be translated are the languages that are translated today, so Spanish, French, Arabic, and Russian. But the application itself is in English. I have a question in the chat. I don't know if everybody can see it, but a question.
D'accord, merci. Je vous envoie ça. Je vous rappelle.
A question asking whether or not an LLC can apply to this project or a group of professionals. So any organization can apply to the World Justice Challenge, and we do accept project applications from a combination of organizations. You'll see something to that effect in the application. And then I have another question, which is really important, which is it required to apply with a project that we have implemented in the past or with a project that we plan to implement in the future? So the World Justice Challenge is designed to recognize projects that have already been implemented. It is not a grant-making competition. We want to recognize the impact of a project, so we are looking for projects that have already been implemented. There's also a question in Russian that we can translate, that is, do we need to participate under or with an organization, or can we participate as individuals? So again, anybody can apply to the World Justice Challenge, whether they are organizations or individuals. I have a question also about whether the application has a specific format and whether it's limited to a certain number of pages. You will see on our website, when you either go to the application form or download the application, there are specific guidelines about the different pieces of the application, guidelines for words, limits, etc. So it is limited, but there is guidance in there. And then I have a question about whether or not local CSOs are a priority for the award, or organizations with a global footprint can apply also. Again, any organization can apply. There's no favoritism in terms of the organizations that we look at. What we're looking for is impact, sustainability, replicability, and whether or not the project can serve as a footprint for global solutions. Maybe, Lauren, we can ask the person who has their hand up to intervene while we look at the other questions.
Yes. Yes, please go ahead. You can unmute yourself, and I believe, or unless our co-host has to do it for you, and then please go ahead and ask your question.
Merci beaucoup. Je viens d'activer mon microphone. Je suis Mbazi Grassa. J'interviens depuis 3 ans dans le cadre du programme World Justice Project pour le compte de la RDC. Je suis expert notamment dans le secteur du droit commercial et civil. Je suis d'abord émerveillé, et puis je tiens à féliciter en prélude l'initiative, tout en essayant également d'insister sur un certain nombre d'éléments. J'espère que vous me captez.
Oui, on vous entend très bien, Monsieur Mbazi, mais
Vous me
est-ce que
captez,
vous
on
avez
est
une question?
ensemble?
Oui, est-ce que vous m'entendez? Okay, I think we might need to move on to other question while Mr. Mbazi gets his connection sorted. There are a number of questions in the chat. One of them is, if our solution is making impact locally and is ready to scale outside our country to board an impact, is that the type of project that is welcome to apply? That is definitely the type of project that we're looking for. We want to see something that can give a blueprint to expand around the world and that can be replicated in different geographies.
Yes, and just to add to that, Killian, that the projects are going to be evaluated on 3 criteria. One of them is impact and sustainability, and then the third is scaling outside of your local context. So we're certainly looking for that. So that's one of the 3 key criteria of the applications.
Thank you, Lauren. Question in Spanish in the chat, whether or not applicants can associate other themes to the rule of law theme, for example, a theme on environment or socioeconomic reactivation. In terms of, I think we've laid out the themes of the World Justice Challenge, and as long as your project fits within those themes, then those are the guidelines that we can give you in terms of your application. Then the second part of that question is, what are the conditions that an applicant needs to fill? So the person is referring to experience. I mean, this is determined by your project and the length of implementation of your project, whether it's demonstrated impact, again, sustainability, replicability, etc. Then I think those are all the questions that we have for now in the chat. I think we may have someone else who's raised their hand. Peto, if you would like to ask your question, you can unmute yourself.
Je vous remercie. Moi, je suis le docteur Peto Koundé Innocent. Je suis pharmacien au Togo, c'est en Afrique de l'Ouest. Et depuis quelques années, j'interviens en tout cas dans le formulaire, le remplissage de formulaire sur les questions de droit à la santé dans mon pays pour participer à alimenter un peu ce que vous faites. Et j'étais content de voir qu'il y a un challenge comme ça qui est offert pour pouvoir partager des projets. Moi, c'est vrai que je n'ai pas préparé quelque chose encore à vous partager, mais j'étais intéressé de pouvoir candidater sur la question de l'accès équitable aux produits de santé de qualité. Cette question s'est fait ressentir encore plus dans le contexte de la COVID-19. Et dans nos pays, nous avons eu de réelles difficultés pour accéder à des produits de base, des produits essentiels, des insulines et autres. Et alors, cette question, bon, est-ce que ça peut... Elle est un peu plus globale, hein, je comprends, mais est-ce que c'est ce type de sujet qui ont un impact réel sur la vie des gens, est-ce que ça rentre dans les thèmes que vous souhaitez? Et puis, j'aimerais savoir un peu, j'ai pris en cours, comment présenter le projet si mon idée rentre dans les sujets qui peuvent être abordés. Merci.
Merci pour votre question. I'll repeat the question in English. Mr. Peto is asking whether a project that addresses such themes as the delivery of essential medications, such as insulin in developing countries, can apply to the World Justice Challenge. I think that it's a project that fits within our theme, so long as it's linked to something, you know, like we have seen during the pandemic of the problem of procurement during COVID-19 and how to solve that going forward, or in terms of equal rights and the difference between access to those medications in different countries. The second part of the question was how we can apply it to the World Justice Challenge 2022. The application is available on the World Justice Project website. Again, you can apply online or download the application and set it in via email. I think we have someone else, Lauren, that raised their hand. Mioba, if you'd like to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Please go ahead, and then we'll get to a couple of the other questions in the chat.
Yes, thank you very much. Though I'd also typed the same question. First, I would want to applaud the two presenters and also a huge thank you to World Justice for being a game changer to these organizations. Now, the question that I have to both organizations is how accessible are their services to people with disabilities? Thank you very much. Hope I was clear.
Perhaps you could, so if you are, I'm asking you about the accessibility for people with disabilities of the challenge and of the forum. We aim to make both of the processes accessible for the disability community. So for the forum, which will be an event that we'll be holding in person and online, we are taking steps to plan for an accessible experience and ensuring that all reasonable accommodations will be respected and accommodated for those who will be participating. And for the challenge, in terms of the application, we have, as Killian mentioned, made it available to download as a Word document to make it more accessible for different formats. And if there are any organizations or individuals who require additional reasonable accommodation in order to participate, please contact us directly over email, and we would be happy to discuss accommodation, because we very much would like to see applications from the disability community, as well as applications that are inclusive of the disability community.
Yeah.
Thank you for your question.
But I would also want to hear how the two projects have been made accessible to people with abilities, that is, if they have got any beneficiary with a disability on their program. Also looking at also like in the prisons, are these services being accessed by those with disabilities?
For the two projects that we have.
The implementers, yes.
Yes, perhaps because we have a couple of other questions. Perhaps Grace and Miriam, if you could put in the chat some information about if your projects have been accessible for people with disabilities, and that way we can answer your question as well as field some of the other ones that are coming in. Thank you both. So I'm looking at some of the questions in the chat. Is there a time period for when the project was completed? So that's a very good question. So as we mentioned, we are looking to make awards to projects that have already achieved some impact. The projects need not have been fully completed. They can be in progress with some impact already shown. They just can't be future projects that have not yet been implemented. And that being said, you know, we are looking to make awards to projects that have some potential for future scaling, future sustainability, future replication, so that this award can sort of help that project on their trajectory to further impact. So if it's a project that's fully completed and does not intend to continue, we would not consider that a competitive project. But if it's a project that, you know, has completed and recently and has potential to restart or to expand, then we would consider the project, absolutely. there's a question about last year. One of the prerequisite of the applications was a response to COVID-19. How strong is the connection this year? That's a very good question because yes, the 2021 challenge, which we hosted earlier this year, was very much focused on a direct response to the pandemic. And this year, the challenge is still being considered in the context of the pandemic, but it's more in terms of pandemic recovery and ensuring that some of the root causes of the injustices that were highlighted during the pandemic are addressed. So we're looking more in this challenge to projects that address some of the systemic injustice issues rather than direct service delivery, for example, related to the pandemic. And there's a question about getting the presentation. So just as a reminder, this presentation is being recorded and it will be posted on the World Justice Project website in all of the languages in which it was available. Yes, and there's a question, can we get summaries of previous projects for an idea of the types of projects? We encourage you to visit the World Justice Project website. There are lists of the previous projects that won the challenge, as well as the finalists who made it to the semifinalist round from 2021 and from 2019. So those should give you a sense of some of the projects that have been competitive in years past. We have a question in French, which perhaps Killian, you can help me with.
Yes, thank you, Lauren. So there's a question from Transgirls Can from the DRC asking whether or not we work with transgender persons. I think Transgirls Can has their hand up. I'm wondering if you can intervene just to detail if this is a question for our presenters or about whether or not a project on transgender persons can apply to the World Justice Challenge. Est-ce que vous nous entendez? Okay, maybe, here we go. On ne vous entend pas, est-ce que vous...
Est-ce que, allô?
Oui, on vous entend.
Allô?
Oui.
Ok, d'accord. Ok, moi, présentement, je vais me présenter. Moi, je suis Lulinda, Lulinda héritier. Et je suis parti de la communauté trans à République démocratique du Congo. Alors, j'aimerais tout simplement savoir comment vous travaillez avec les personnes trans, longtemps marginalisées, en raison de leur identité de genre. Et aussi, puisque en raison de leur identité de genre qui s'écarte des attentes traditionnelles reposant sur les sexes assignés à la naissance. Puisque nous, ici, à la République démocratique du Congo, dans la province du Kivu en particulier, les personnes trans sont confrontées à des niveaux élevés de stigmatisation et de discrimination, de marginalisation et d'exclusion sociale en raison de l'expression de genre ou l'identité de genre, s'écarte des attentes traditionnelles reposant sur les sexes assignées à la naissance. Cela les rend moins susceptibles, au moins aptes à accéder aux services et nuit leur santé et leur bien-être et les expose à un risque plus élevé de la pauvreté, aussi de marginalisation.
Merci.
Donc, cela dit,
est-ce que
les facteurs sociaux...
Est-ce que je peux vous demander si votre question s'applique à nos présentatrices et aux projets qui ont été présentés ou si vous voulez savoir si votre projet est qualifié pour le World Justice Challenge?
Oui.
Aux présentatrices?
Oui, oui. Et aussi, ma dernière question, j'aimerais savoir comment vous travaillez avec les représentatrices, oui. Comment vous travaillez avec les personnes trans qui vivent sous les chocs de COVID-19 et de marginalisation?
Merci. So the question is for our two presenters. If you could detail a little bit how you work with transgender persons in your country and in your projects. I think this might be I don't know if we have time, Lauren.
Yeah, so that's something else I would invite Miriam and Grace to provide some information in the chat. It's because unfortunately we are at the end of our time together at the end of the hour. But I do, and I know we have a couple of questions that are still remaining. I really want to encourage anyone who still has questions to send an email to us directly at engagement@ruraljusticeproject.org. And we will also put that email address up in the chat. And we are happy to answer any questions over email about eligibility, about the application process, about anything related to the challenge or the forum. So please feel free to contact us directly because unfortunately we do have to wrap up, but thank you everyone for your very good questions. And I also I really want to thank Grace and Miriam for sharing your time with us. And just to wrap up, thank you all also so much for joining, and we really appreciate your interest in the challenge and your interest in the organization. And we very much look forward to receiving your applications. As a reminder, the webinar was recorded. It will be posted on our website for future viewing by yourselves, and please share it with your colleagues if it's helpful. And we also encourage you to sign up for the World Justice Project's mailing list, and that's in the chat as well, so that you can receive more information about the World Justice Forum and other upcoming opportunities. And as we mentioned, we'll be launching registration for the forum later on this week, so please stay tuned for that. And don't forget that challenge applications are due on December 10th. And we very much look forward to receiving your applications, and just want to thank everyone again for joining us and for your interest in the competition. So thank you all. Take care.